Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the dimly lit closet, a breathtaking escape from mundane reality awaited. A silken sundress adorned in a riot of florals. Santiago's breath caught as he caressed the garment, his fingers gliding over the fabric's delicate paint of blooms in harmonious hues of blush and daffodil. It was an impulse buy, an innocent indulgence back then, yet a clandestine desire that remained concealed in the shadows. But today, Santiago decided to embrace his true essence. With a determined inhale, he vowed to let go of the fears and inhibitions that had kept this aspect of himself hidden. With shaking hands, he took the dress off its hanger and slipped it over his head. The material whispered against his skin as it settled into place. He smoothed it down, marveling at how right it felt. Turning to face the mirror, Santiago's breath caught in his throat. The person staring back at him was a stranger, and yet achingly familiar. The dress hugged his slim waist before flaring out over his hips. The floral print softened his angular features, lending a feminine grace to his appearance. For the first time, the reflection matched the image he held in his heart. "You can do this," Santiago whispered to his reflection. "It's time." Grabbing a small purse, he headed for the door before he could lose his nerve. The hallway of his apartment building loomed before him, suddenly seeming endless. Santiago's heart pounded as he made his way to the elevator, hyper-aware of every swish of fabric around his legs. The elevator doors slid open with a quiet chime. Empty. Santiago let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding and stepped inside. As the doors began to close, a meaty hand thrust between them. "Hold up!" a gruff voice called. The doors reopened to reveal a burly man in a repairman's uniform. He lumbered into the elevator, toolbox in hand. Santiago pressed himself into the corner, willing himself to become invisible. The repairman's eyes flicked over him, lingering for a moment on the sundress before he turned to face the doors. An awkward silence filled the small space as the elevator began its descent. Santiago kept his gaze fixed on the floor, acutely aware of the other man's presence. The gentle sway of the elevator was oddly soothing, and he allowed himself to relax slightly. Without warning, the elevator jerked to a halt. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Santiago's heart leapt into his throat as darkness engulfed them.
"What the hell?"
the repairman muttered. A moment later, dim emergency lighting sputtered to life. Santiago found himself face to face with the repairman, who was frowning at the control panel. "Looks like we're stuck," the man said, pressing buttons to no effect. He pulled out a phone and dialed a number.
"Yeah, it's Mike. Elevator's down in the Oak Ridge apartments. 2 of us trapped inside."
Santiago's mind raced. Trapped. In a confined space. With a stranger. While wearing a dress. His chest tightened as panic began to set in.
"Hey, you okay?"
Mike's gruff voice cut through the haze of anxiety.
"You're looking a little pale there."
Santiago nodded jerkily, not trusting himself to speak. Mike eyed him with concern.
"First time wearing that getup in public, huh?"
he asked, gesturing to the dress. Santiago's eyes widened in surprise.
"How did you—"
Mike chuckled.
"I've been around the block a few times, kid. Seen all sorts. Plus, you look about ready to jump out of your skin."
Shame and fear warred within Santiago. He braced himself for mockery or disgust, but Mike's expression remained neutral.
"Look,
Mike said, settling down on the elevator floor.
We might be here a while. May as well get comfortable and chat. I'm Mike, by the way. Santiago,
he managed to reply, cautiously lowering himself to sit across from Mike.
Nice to meet you, Santiago. That's a pretty dress you've got on.
The simple compliment, delivered without a hint of sarcasm, caught Santiago off guard.
Thank you,
he murmured, smoothing the fabric over his knees.
So, what made you decide today was the day?
Mike asked. Santiago hesitated, unsure how much to reveal, but there was something reassuring about Mike's matter-of-fact demeanor. I've known for a long time that this is who I am inside, but I've been too scared to show it. Today I just couldn't stand hiding anymore. Mike nodded thoughtfully.
That takes guts, kid. Not everyone has the courage to be true to themselves like that. You don't think it's weird?
Santiago asked, his voice small.
Nah,
Mike shrugged.
Life's too short to worry about what other people think. You gotta do what makes you happy.
A lump formed in Santiago's throat at the unexpected acceptance.
I wish everyone saw it that way,
he said softly.
Yeah, well, some folks are just small-minded,
Mike replied.
But you can't let them stop you from being who you are.
They lapsed into a companionable silence. Santiago found his anxiety slowly ebbing away, replaced by a tentative sense of peace. For the first time, he allowed himself to fully relax into the persona he had longed to embrace.
You know,
he said after a while,
I've always felt more like an Annika than a Santiago.
Mike smiled.
Annika, that's a beautiful name.
Thank you, Annika replied, feeling a thrill at hearing the name spoken aloud. Just then, the elevator lurched back to life. Annika and Mike scrambled to their feet as they began moving again.
Looks like our time's up,
Mike said, as the doors slid open on the ground floor.
It was nice meeting you, Annika. You take care now.
Annika stepped out into the lobby, her head held high. The fear that had gripped her earlier was gone, replaced by a newfound confidence. She strode through the building's front doors and out into the sunshine, the skirt of her sundress swirling around her legs. For the first time in her life, Annika felt truly free. She walked down the street, reveling in the feeling of being her authentic self. The world seemed brighter somehow, full of possibilities she had never dared to imagine before. As she passed a small cafe, Annika caught her reflection in the window. The person staring back at her was radiant, glowing with an inner light. She smiled, recognizing herself at last. Impulsively, Annika pushed open the cafe door and stepped inside. The aroma of coffee and freshly baked pastries enveloped her. She approached the counter, her heart beating a little faster as the barista turned to greet her. "Good morning. What can I get for you?" the young woman asked, with a friendly smile. "A latte, please," Annika replied, her voice steady and clear. And my name is Annika." The barista nodded, writing the name on a cup without hesitation. "Coming right up, Annika." As she waited for her drink, Annika felt a warm glow of acceptance wash over her. Each small interaction, each moment of being seen and acknowledged as herself, felt like a victory. "Latte for Annika!" the barista called out a few minutes later. Annika collected her drink, savoring the simple pleasure of hearing her chosen name spoken aloud. She found a small table by the window and sat down, watching the world go by outside. As she sipped her latte, Annika's mind drifted back to the encounter in the elevator. Mike's easy acceptance had been a turning point, giving her the strength to take these first steps into the world as her true self. She made a mental note to thank him if their paths ever crossed again. The day stretched out before her, full of promise. Annika decided to make the most of it, to revel in the joy of finally being herself. She would walk in the park, perhaps do some window shopping. All the simple pleasures she had denied herself for so long out of fear. As she stood to leave the cafe, Annika caught sight of her reflection once more. The person looking back at her was smiling, confident, and undeniably herself. With a deep breath and a square of her shoulders, she stepped back out into the world, ready to embrace whatever came next. The park was alive with the vibrant colors of spring, mirroring the blossoms on Annika's sundress. She strolled along the winding paths, drinking in the sights and sounds around her. Children laughed as they chased each other across the grass. Couples picnicked beneath spreading oak trees, and joggers pounded past on their daily routes. For a moment, Annika felt a pang of self-consciousness, but as she continued her walk, she realized that no one was paying her any particular attention. She was just another person enjoying a beautiful day in the park. The realization was liberating. As she rounded a bend in the path, Annika came across a small art fair. Booths lined the walkway, displaying paintings, sculptures, and handmade crafts. She wandered among them, admiring the creativity on display. One booth caught her eye, a display of delicate, handcrafted jewelry. The artist, a woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes, smiled as Annika approached. "See anything you like, dear?" she asked. Annika's gaze was drawn to a necklace with a small, iridescent butterfly pendant. "It's beautiful," she murmured, reaching out to touch it gently. "It suits you," the artist said. "The butterfly is a symbol of transformation, you know, of becoming who you're truly meant to be." Annika looked up, wondering if the woman somehow knew her story, but the artist's expression was simply warm and encouraging. "I'll take it," Annika decided impulsively. As the artist wrapped up the necklace, she asked, "Would you like to try it on first? I have a mirror here." Annika nodded, and the woman fastened the delicate chain around her neck. The butterfly pendant nestled just below her collarbone, catching the light as it rose and fell with her breath. Turning to look in the small mirror, Annika gasped softly. The necklace was the perfect finishing touch to her outfit, lending an extra touch of femininity to her appearance. But more than that, it felt like a talisman, a reminder of the journey she had embarked upon. "Thank you," Annika said, her voice thick with emotion. "It's perfect." The artist squeezed her hand gently. "You're welcome, sweetheart. Wear it in good health." As Annika continued her walk through the park, she felt a new spring in her step. The weight of the necklace against her skin was a constant, comforting reminder of her transformation. She was Annika now, through and through. The afternoon sun was warm on her skin as she made her way back towards the bustling downtown area. Annika found herself drawn to the shops lining the street, their windows filled with colorful displays. She had always admired the fashions from afar, never daring to explore them properly. But today was different. Taking a deep breath, Annika pushed open the door of a boutique. The shop assistant, a young woman with a pixie cut and a friendly smile, greeted her warmly. "Welcome! Let me know if you need any help finding something." Annika nodded, her fingers trailing over the racks of soft fabrics and vibrant colors. She selected a few items: a flowing skirt, a delicate blouse, a cardigan in a shade that complemented her sundress. As she headed towards the fitting rooms, a flash of uncertainty gripped her. But the shop assistant's smile never wavered as she ushered Annika into a cubicle. "Take your time," she said. "And remember, fashion is all about expressing yourself and having fun." Alone in the fitting room, Annika took a moment to steady herself. She could do this. She deserved to explore this part of herself, to find joy in fashion and self-expression. She tried on each item, marveling at how they looked and felt. The skirt swirled around her legs, the blouse accentuated her slim frame, and the cardigan added a touch of cozy elegance. For the first time, Annika truly saw herself as she had always imagined. Emerging from the fitting room, she found the shop assistant waiting with an encouraging smile. "How did it go? Find anything you like?" "I love them all," Annika admitted. "But I probably shouldn't." "Nonsense," the assistant said firmly. "You look amazing in those pieces. They were made for you." Buoyed by the woman's enthusiasm, Annika made her purchases. As she left the shop, shopping bag in hand, she felt a sense of accomplishment. Another small step on her journey, another affirmation of her true self. The day was waning as Annika made her way home, her arms laden with her purchases. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, mirroring the flowers on her dress. She felt tired but exhilarated, her mind buzzing with the experiences of the day. As she approached her apartment building, a familiar figure came into view. Mike, the repairman, was just leaving, toolbox in hand. He spotted Annika and raised a hand in greeting. "Well, look at you," he called out. "Seems like you had a good day." Annika smiled, surprising herself with how natural it felt. "I did, thanks to you. Our talk in the elevator. It gave me the courage I needed." Mike's face softened. "Glad I could help, kid. You look happy." "I am," Annika replied, realizing the truth of it as she spoke. "For the first time in a long time, I really am." "Good for you," Mike said, clapping her gently on the shoulder. "Keep being true to yourself, Annika. It suits you." As Mike walked away, Annika felt a rush of gratitude. This day, which had started with so much fear and uncertainty, had turned into something beautiful. She had taken her first steps into the world as her true self, and the world had welcomed her with open arms. Entering her apartment, Annika set down her bags and stood before the mirror. The woman who gazed back at her was transformed, not just by the dress or the new necklace, but by the confidence that radiated from within. She was Annika now, in her heart and in the eyes of the world. As she changed into comfortable loungewear, Annika carefully hung up her sundress. It would always hold a special place in her heart, the catalyst for her transformation, the key that had unlocked her true self. Settling onto her couch, Annika pulled out her phone. Her finger hovered over her parents' number. They didn't know yet, but she felt ready to share her truth with them. Whatever happened, she knew she had the strength to face it. As the call connected, Annika took a deep breath. "Hi, Mom," she said, her voice steady and clear. "There's something important I need to tell you." The conversation that followed was emotional, filled with questions and confusion, but also with love and a desire to understand. Annika's mother listened, really listened, as Annika poured out the feelings she had kept bottled up for so long. "Oh, sweetheart," her mother said finally, her voice thick with tears.
"I had no idea you were struggling with this. I wish you had felt you could tell us sooner.
I was scared, Annika admitted.
I didn't know how you'd react.
We love you,
her mother said firmly.
no matter what.
This doesn't change that. It might take some time for us to adjust, but we're here for you. Always. As Annika ended the call, she felt as though a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. There would be challenges ahead, she knew. Not everyone would be as accepting as Mike or her parents, but she felt ready to face whatever came her way. She had taken the first step, the hardest step, and found strength she never knew she possessed. Annika was no longer hiding, no longer pretending. She was simply, beautifully herself. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Annika's hand curled around the butterfly pendant at her throat. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, new opportunities to be her authentic self. And she was ready for all of it. In the weeks that followed, Annika blossomed. Each day brought new experiences, new chances to express herself freely. She experimented with makeup, learning through trial and error how to accentuate her features. She explored different styles of clothing, building a wardrobe that truly reflected her personality. Her confidence grew with each passing day. The stares and whispers that had once terrified her now rolled off her back. Annika held her head high, secure in the knowledge that she was living her truth. Work presented its own set of challenges. Annika had been fortunate enough to find an employer who was supportive of her transition, but facing her coworkers for the first time, as Annika had been nerve-wracking. Yet, to her surprise and relief, most of her colleagues had been accepting, even supportive. There were difficult moments, of course. Not everyone understood or accepted her journey. Annika faced her share of hurtful comments and confused looks. But she found strength in the support of those who mattered most. Her family, her true friends, and most importantly, herself. One sunny afternoon, about a month after her first outing as Annika, she found herself back in the park where she had bought her butterfly necklace. The art fair was long gone, but the memory of that day remained vivid in her mind. As she strolled along the familiar paths, Annika marveled at how much had changed in such a short time. She was no longer the scared, hesitant person who had first ventured out in that floral sundress. She was Annika, through and through, comfortable in her own skin. A group of children ran past, laughing and shouting. One little girl, her pigtails bouncing, slowed as she passed Annika. "I like your dress," the child said shyly. "It's pretty." Annika smiled, touched by the simple, honest compliment. "Thank you," she replied. "I like your pigtails." The girl beamed before scampering off to rejoin her friends. Annika watched her go, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. It was moments like these, small but significant, that reaffirmed her journey. As she continued her walk, Annika's thoughts turned to the future. There were still steps to take in her transition, decisions to be made. But she no longer feared the path ahead. She had found her strength, her voice, her true self. The butterfly pendant caught the sunlight as Annika tilted her face to the sky. She thought about its symbolism, transformation, rebirth, becoming who you're truly meant to be. It had been a long and sometimes difficult journey, but Annika knew she had finally emerged from her cocoon. She was Annika, and she was flying free.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!